Welcome in. This is episode 16 of the Cougar Digest Podcast. My name is Rob Sellers. I'm the publisher of Cougar Digest. Joined as always for the post games by Kevin and Gatlin. Guys, how y'all doing this afternoon?
Hey Rob, doing all right. I'm on vacation, so I'm doing good. You know, I'm trying to sleep in a little
man.
bit.
These are the good times for you.
Yeah. I said I wanted to sleep in, but as I told you guys before the show, I was up late, rewatching the game. But I knew that I could because I have all week to do whatever I want, basically. But doing good today. I'm glad that we can get together today. I know that we talked about getting together yesterday evening after the game to discuss, but I'm glad that we kind of waited a little bit and took a little bit more of a look at the game and how things played out, so we can talk about it today and even pull up some plays that we want to reference, for whatever reason we want to reference, something good, something bad, or just a continuing problem on this team. It's always good when we get together and talk about the game that was just played, and talk a little bit about the basketball game that we had this evening also. I'm happy to be here and happy to be on vacation, and happy to be talking UH football and basketball with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Gatlin, I don't know if we've ever asked you before. I'm not trying to get in your personal business, but does the holidays, does it slow down any for you around the holidays or anything like that?
It tends to. I work an office job, so I'm in sales, and most of the people I'm calling on aren't answering this time of year. So things tend to slow down, which is not a bad thing. I'm feeling great myself, guys. I have never been more convinced now than ever before that we are this shy of expectations, and we are much closer to playing good football than the. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm reading Tillman's comments from Friday. I'm not.
Okay, well, there you go.
I like that turn there.
Yeah. This obviously we're recording this as Sunday afternoon, as we reference basketball games tonight. Yesterday the Cougars lost to Oklahoma State 43-30. Gatlin said earlier before we got on that he was tied up and had to watch from home, and I also, due to poor planning on my part, which was, I guess, maybe expected, but unfortunately, I went to DJ's funeral in the morning yesterday and truly didn't expect for it to last as long as it did. And for a brief second before I walked out the door, I thought, let me grab at least my lanyard, you know what I mean, to get in. That way, even if I didn't have my camera because I was running short, I could go. And but then I was like, nah, I'm not going to want to go in the suit to the, you know what I mean, to the game and on the sideline. And I was like, I'll be all right. It won't be that long. But yeah, there was just a lot of people there, and B, the service went longer even than I expected in terms of what I'd heard. So, I mean, not the end of the world. I was glad to be there. Just by the time I got all the way back home, I hadn't eaten lunch, had planned to eat lunch and had to change and all that. It would have put me right around kickoff getting over there. And yeah, so anyway,
but
I did
representing, able to hold down the fort for us.
So. No, I did get to, I watched the whole game from home. And so, I would prefer to have been there in person, but I still was able to watch the whole game and all that. But it was interesting being at the funeral. There was obviously a ton of Houston ties with the former players and whatnot. A lot of former players. It was just wild walking around seeing some of these guys. Like Eric Braswell was up there, and Jeremiah Farley. These guys from back then. Obviously Joey Mbu and Cam Malvo were there. George Bamfo, who's gone on to do some crazy things since he's left Houston.
Oh, wow.
For those that remember, he recently had an article in a major magazine that he trains Ludacris basically for his movie roles and stuff. Like when he does action stuff for like Fast and Furious, he's like a personal trainer for him. So yeah, weird afterlife. But I also get it. He was always pretty fit. So makes sense. But yeah, anyway, just ton of guys. Oddly enough, I don't know if you guys remember us talking about Bram Kohlhausen before the start of the season, right around the beginning, and we had that major accident in the off season where he fell out of a helicopter as they were, I believe, they were hunting out of a helicopter, and he fell out and literally as if this moment wasn't heavy enough and crazy enough as it was, I'd heard, we talked to the TCU guy, Jeremy Clark. He talked about that they had honored him up there. And so interesting to see him there. I was really shocked to see him there, but it was also really, really cool to see a lot of the old faces and stuff like that. You know, seeing a lot of people, Shane Ross, just a million people I'm trying to think of that I just got a chance to say hi to before if I'd have known I was going to be late like I was, I would have stayed a little longer and visited. But there's a chance I would bet I'll probably see some more of those guys again at Zach's funeral and Ralph's funeral. So anyway, I don't want to dwell on that too much and be negative or nothing like that. But Houston was very well represented there. And Randall Holloman, I sat with his dad, who I'd known from both Randall's time there, as well as his dad was a sports photographer. So, ton of people there, and it was a very good service, very honoring, and very touching. So, since we're all good and depressed now, let's talk about the Cougars' loss to Oklahoma State. Since we're down here,
Robert, there's one thing you know how to do with segue.
Didn't I complain about people and their motivational speaking before?
That's right.
Wow.
There you go. So yes, I'm sure we have tons to share on everybody's thoughts on the game yesterday. Obviously, I put my thoughts on the morning after this morning, just the same word I've been using probably the last half of the season, and inconsistent, just up, down, you know, from quarterback play to offensive line play to, you know, everything basically. Defense good at times, and then, you know, are they running out of gas? Are they losing their technique later in game? You know, what is it? You know, we could beat this to death, but inconsistent is the best word for me, top to bottom. So I don't know who wants to jump in first. I know there's some thoughts waiting. I don't want to hold anybody back.
No, I think Kevin was super excited. So let's get it going.
Please, me first.
Make Kevin sit there and wait.
Well, you know, I as you were talking about, I was just going through and just kind of like putting stars next to some plays that I wanted to show, and all of a sudden I start looking, and I've got about 10 different plays that I want to take a look at, and some of them for different reasons, obviously. Okay, one of the ones that I want, and we'll get to it later, but that obviously that Smith touchdown that he caught, I think is probably his first reception touchdown, in his career. But just I wanted to look at some plays setting up to that, because I think it was really important to take a look at how that play was set up, because that is a trick play, right? That's something that you have to pull out at the right time, because you know that the defense is on their heels, right? The defense is not sure what's coming. The few plays before that, we were getting chunk yards. We were basically doing what we wanted to the defense, and then all of a sudden, it was a perfect time to run that play, and we'll look at it because that play was run to perfection. Gatlin, you have the video, correct?
Yeah,
I want to cue it up or not. And then I want to take a look at the first play that we spoke a little bit about, where Caesar, they had Caesar split out as a defensive back. This was maybe the second play into the game, and again, he is, and this is going to be a theme, today, to see Caesar, how he plays and how he can dominate on the defense. You just let him run wild, and he will cause chaos. But it also, the other players have to be doing their job as well. And again, this goes back to execution. So when Gatlin gets that up, I just want to show that, because I was confused on that one. That was 14 minutes in, or rather at the 14-minute mark of the first quarter. The first play, I wanted to look at the first play before that. It was at the 14:38 minute mark. It was the second play of the game, but I decided to skip that because it looked like that we were playing very far off those receivers. So what I saw in that play was Bowman saw how far back the defensive player was playing, so it was just an easy pass. That was one play that I wanted to show, but I wanted to jump to Caesar instead first, because there's other examples. Okay.
Yeah, let me share this.
I was just confused on this play, and Rob, remember the play whenever I was talking about it, because he actually started talking about it, but I was just like,
I thought they were really messed over. I thought they got themselves in a bad situation, but
right,
played into
right. That's what I thought, because this defense seems to be confused before the play often,
they were
and
very
I thought that
confused.
this was just one of those. Yeah.
So if you see what happens,
Hey, we got to get this onto the screen, so I'm going to add it to the stage.
hang on, and it doesn't look like this is the right. You said it's the 14-minute mark, so it's probably after this play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you could see the confusion before the defense. Specifically, even Caesar's trying to figure out what's. And then when I saw him run out to the outside, I was like, "Oh, this is not good."
Right.
There we go. Sorry.
But it worked out well. But this is what I want to see is just how he's able just to toss these players out of the way and make the play.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure that the quarterback saw who was over there covering. Yeah. So there, he's down at the bottom.
I'm Oklahoma State fan. I'm asking who gets fired for letting this happen.
Right.
How do you not?
There was a lot
of that when you see him out there.
Yeah. So you see what happens.
How do you?
Reason,
but
I
think you take advantage of it, Rob.
So you see the reason they're kind of confused and lined up out here is typically these linebackers. So I think it's Malik Robinson in this 3-3-5 sits in the middle, and then you've got whoever this is on one side, and Jamal Morris, and then typically Caesar would be lined up over to the other side because they went with this 3-by-1 kind of bunch look. In what is clearly kind of man coverage, Nelson Caesar gets flexed out to actually have to guard one of these guys. Which is not a matchup we typically want.
Literally, I saw him run out there, and I was like, "Oh no, this is bad." Like, hey, he's a tremendous athlete, but ask him to cover wide receiver.
Yeah. Pause it right here. Pause it right here. Okay. That's exactly what I was thinking. You know, on the defense, just how he just pushes that blocker out of the way and just slams the guy to the ground. It's just, it's magical, right? But if I was the offensive, if I'm the quarter, if I'm Bowman and I see that, that's where I want to go. I want to go because I think that's a mismatch, right? You got some speedy receivers out there on a defensive end. I think that's advantage offense, right? I think 100 times,
you got to let the receiver create separation there. Yeah.
Exactly. And it didn't happen, but I give credit to Caesar for that play, you know, for blowing up that play. Let's back it up a little bit and let's just watch the play, you know, how it plays out in full speed in real time. But this is just one of those plays that you see when you have a difference maker on the defense, this is what you get. Okay, he comes up, the guy goes down there to block him, right? And he just pushes him out of the way and then slams the receiver. I don't want to say slam, but he forces the receiver to the ground. I guess is a better way to say it, right? So I thought that was just a solid defensive play, you know, and that was all Caesar. There was nobody else. It was almost as if it was Caesar against Oklahoma State's offense, during that play. Okay, so I thought that was a good one to take a look at. Gatlin, let's go to the 13-10 mark of the game. This is another one that I saw. This is a Caldwell play where he blew it up. I think this might have been a tackle for a loss if I remember right. But this was a screen.
Good open field tackle.
And good open field tackle. I think they got bunched up there and he makes the play. Yeah, that's it right there. Okay. Yeah, let's back that up to 13-10 if we can to watch that.
I think this is it, right?
No, it's the play before this one, I think. Or it might be this one.
Yeah, I think that was it, right?
I have 13-10. No, that was 13-21. That was a third and long.
Right, but
we had to call a timeout. Yeah, that's it right there. That's it right there. I might have had the time. Oh, I had the 13-21. That was a third and long. It was before this play. We had a substitute infraction. We had to call a timeout. Within the first 2 minutes of the game, this is another problem that this defense has. You have to know that you're playing a team that likes to, snap the ball quickly on offense, right? So you have to have the right personnel out there. You can't make those switches. You can't make a switch on a team like that whenever they're wanting to push the ball fast, and that's what happens, And I think Holgerson said that. Holgerson was asked in the post-game press conference about that. And he just said, "Look, I don't make substitutions. That's somebody else. That's a coordinator or somebody else." So I kind of agree with him on that, but he's still over. Again, somebody has to be responsible for it. He's the guy who, has to get his coaches to get better when it comes to substituting, right? So I didn't want to show that.
It is kind of strange though, right? Because you made a point that it's so early on, right? Because typically. where that would happen is your guys are gassed and you're trying to get fresh legs in there towards the end of a half or the end of a game. That kind of makes sense. Whereas this substitution, if they're that tired that early in the game, that's a strength and conditioning problem. But more likely, it's, hey, you put the wrong personnel out there, and now they're taking advantage of a mismatch, right? And so that comes back to really Doug Belk, but the defensive staff to say, why are we not in the right personnel in the first place? Why are we having to make that substitution there? That's really the question that should be asked.
And unfortunately, I think it was on this one or the other substitution issue that came up. Dana went looking for somebody to gripe at or whatever, and they showed it on the sideline. It looked like he was getting on to Garrison Vaughn, which, I mean, he's a defensive GA, and I know it's not, the buck won't stop with him, but he may have heard an earful in the process. But, yeah, he went looking, and that's who, I guess, the first guy he found that was semi-responsible.
Just looking for somebody to yell at, right? I remember that. I remember that. That was
funny. I mean, I'm sure Garrison didn't find it funny, but it was funny to the outsider looking in.
Yeah. That was in the first half also. Okay, this is one that this was a late throw. If we can go to the 11-21 mark is what I have here. Now, this was that catch that Sammy Brown had at the sideline that was reviewed because it was so close. But this is a play where he was open early on, and Smith just got him the ball, just too late. And he made that play too close, a lot closer to the sideline than it had to be. And that's why I wanted to take a look at this play also. Gatlin, I don't know if this was one of the plays that you wanted to look at it also or not, but it was one that caught my eye last night. Let's see, 11-21. Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Okay, so it's the next play.
I don't think this is it. Yeah. I have 11-21 for some reason. I'm hoping that
I think
it was late.
The time within that play, not necessarily the clock where it was.
Yeah, it was late, so I was
because this is it. I'd been backing up through it.
All right, there we go. But he is open 5 yards before this. He gets the ball, So this was just one of those plays that he could have hit them a lot better. He's open.
No, you're definitely right there.
Yeah.
The timing of the route, like you're almost giving the safety too much time to go help. So what they're really doing here conceptually is post snap, you have two high safeties. So this guy comes down, you basically got man coverage on both of these with a safety over the top. And so you're trying to get Dalton Carnes to attack vertically and get that safety to help with his vertical route, which is going to free up Sam Brown on the outside once he gets past his man.
It worked.
And that's exactly what you get. But this ball should have been thrown as Sam Brown is running past his man, not once he's open. And, that's kind of a theme in general with Donovan Smith is just.
If you're even, you're leaving, right? That's how the saying goes.
Yep, exactly. And so the fact that the safety was able
to
cover
one.
all that distance.
As soon as you see him even, you should know he's going to beat his guy. You got to have trust in that.
Yeah. Exactly. And this is one of the problems that we see, and we keep coming back to it, is the lateness that Smith gets the ball out, and I don't know how we're still, dealing with, he's just getting the ball out, a step, 2 steps too slow. He's got to be able to read these, the defenses a lot faster to know this. He should have known that he was going to be open because if we look back, I think he was looking that way the whole time. I don't think he was going through his progressions at all. I think he wanted to come over here the whole time, but he just was too slow in getting him the football. Okay. Is this it again right here? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I was just going back to see if he did. I believe you're right. I think if anything, he's probably looking off the safety a little bit, trying to look at Dalton Carnes. And
he never did look that way.
Yeah. His head is all over on the left side of the field for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one that I wanted to highlight also right there. If you could, Gatlin, go to the 9:32. I hope I have this time right. 9:32. Again, 2:00 in the morning. I'm exhausted.
Just get close.
Now, this one at the 9:32 mark. This was a play where Barnes was in the slot. They only needed 3 yards for a first down. Okay, and the defensive player is 9 yards off of the line of scrimmage. Okay, and this is where I felt This is where you needed to check down at the line to see what was happening. Okay. So here you got Barnes up at the top in the slot, right? Is this the play? Let's run this and let's see if this is the play. I'm not sure if this is it or not. It looks like it might be. Yeah, this is it. Okay. So you got Barnes up there at the slot. You only need 3 yards. Look how far off the defensive player is playing, right? And look where they go. If you go back to that and you see Barnes running that route, all he has to do is run up 3 yards, turn around, and the ball should be there. He falls down. It's a first down, right? Okay. Look at it. But look what happens. They go to completely to a different spot. Look at all that space right there. This is what I'm talking about, Like, why couldn't they make a change at the line, recognize that, and just hit a 3-yard route right there? Just turn around, catch the ball, fall down. You got a first down. Instead, they try to throw a pass out to the sideline 25 yards away across the field, and it's a low percentage throw, if you ask me.
Yeah, so I agree with some of that. There's an element of kind of what they're doing defensively. It kind of shows like cover 3 initially. But even post snap, you kind of very quickly see that it's 2-high safety. And so what they're doing is they're actually looking with these 2 vertical routes to stress this safety. And if you ask me, that route is
they're giving up the middle of the field. Yeah.
No, I agree. Like this space right here is there. If you wanted to sit down, it's kind of more of like an in-breaking route, which I can understand conceptually on that side. At the end of the day, it was a good throw. And it was, it wasn't maybe the play call you would like. To your point, you probably could do something, over here. But I also kind of think, man, again, I didn't watch this play ahead of time, but it looks like, hey, let me see what their heads do. Okay. Yeah. So this side, it looks like is mostly zone, and then you've kind of just got man coverage on the outside. Yeah. So over here, though, you see, these heads are all looking at the quarterback, which kind of tells you more often than not that it's zone. And then they were rolling, so this guy's trying to get to depth and then get his head back around. So mostly zone, but when you see you have that man matchup, and this safety is kind of coming down to cover Carnes on the in-breaking route, that tells you as a quarterback you've got basically, see, this is the second safety. So you've got one-on-one coverage on the outside with Sam Brown. I don't hate that.
Yeah.
That's a matchup that you like more often than not. And you give him a nice little back shoulder throw. Once you see that he's not able to get over the top, it's a great throw. Like, that should be a catch. And I kind of like the idea of like, hey, 4th down, we're going to take a shot. Like, it's ballsy. And it should have paid off. And this is the unfortunate thing for Donovan Smith, where like, we criticize him on one end about, hey, you need to be earlier, or you need to take shots or whatever, and there's a little bit of fan in that. Like, we're just kind of criticizing whatever's not happening. Right. Whereas like, this is a good ball. It's a good play call. It's a good throw, and wide receiver just doesn't execute. And, that's kind of the unfortunate part, is it feels like it's never lining up where we're all rowing in the same direction at the same time,
Right. Well, could this have been, I mean, we didn't see how the play played out, but could this have been a late throw also on that break?
No, because he never gets over the top. So as a wide receiver, running a go route, he's way below the numbers, meaning like, typically as a wide receiver, you'd want to fight to get further away from the sideline, because that space is where you're going to give the quarterback the ability to drift the ball. Because he gets bumped out to the numbers and he never is able to get on top of the defensive back, the best throw is a back shoulder. I actually think Donovan does a good job here, kind of looking off the safety by looking to the right side. But it doesn't seem like he was ever actually going to throw it that way, because he knew he had this man coverage pre-snap.
Right.
So he waits, doesn't get over top, throws the back shoulder, gives his guy a chance to make a play. And I think it's a fantastic ball, to be honest with you.
Okay. So is this the right call for a 4th and 3?
Well, that's certainly up for debate. it was there, right? I mean, when you
Yeah.
look at what the defense is doing, you're like, okay, that's a matchup we like. It's kind of a low percentage, call in terms of trying to get the first down. But there's some of that is like, hey, they're not necessarily expecting it. If we convert it, it's a huge momentum play, right? So, that to some degree, it's just one of those gambles you take, I think. And, again, whether or not it's the right call, that's, up for the fans to talk about. But I certainly think there's an argument that can be made that it was a good call.
Similar to that fourth down call in the Texas game, after they got the bad spot, the fourth down call. Remember, we had the discussion. The play was there, but would there have been a higher percentage?
Sure. And that's exactly.
Similar situation, right?
Yes, great call, actually, Rob. Yeah, like we can talk about, could this have been more optimized? Maybe so. But at the end of the day, I'm never going to pick apart like, hey, if the play was there and it worked how you wanted it to, I mean, I'm never gonna fault somebody for that.
Sure,
that's fair.
I just sometimes wonder if a 25-yard pass is really the right call for a 3-yard play. That's just me. And maybe that's just the way that I think about it sometimes. Is why go so far when it's a lower percentage.
So that is though kind of like an air raid principle kind of thing. Right. When you have those 3rd and shorts, 4th and shorts, taking those big shot plays, and it's one of the critiques of the air raid is whenever you don't hit those shot plays, it kills your drive. Right. But those are kind of the best opportunities in terms of matchup wise to take a shot. So you have to strategically pick when you're going to take them, and when you do, you got to hit them. And
see,
so,
I would rather take a shot on 1st down than 4th down and 3. That's just me.
Sure. We all would. but the point is what the defense is doing is going to look significantly different, right? You're going to have safeties who are playing, much more conservative on 1st down and aren't as committed to run support and things like that, or playing, more close to the line of scrimmage, right? Things like that on 1st down. So certainly you can take shots on 1st down. It just looks a little different.
We had another one. It was either a 3rd and short or a 4th and short a little bit later on in the game that was converted on a Donovan Smith quarterback run. That was set up actually pretty nicely later on. I think that led up to the touchdown. Okay, the next one that I want to look at, this was the defensive play. It was at the 8:17 mark, if I marked it correctly. Now, what I saw with this play at the 8:17 mark was I saw confusion, but it actually worked out on for us defensively. We actually made a really good play with it, even though it looked like there was we didn't know what we were doing at the time before the play.
Okay. Oh, yep, I see.
Yeah, see, it's like we got a couple guys open here.
Yeah, this bunch look seems to have given us a lot of trouble with miscommunications about matchups early on.
Now here, I can't remember who made the play here. I think it was Cedric Williams made the play here on this one. He was able to get pressure on the quarterback, and that caused a poor throw, I believe, if I remember right.
Yep, great pass rush, flush him out of the pocket.
Yeah.
The only critique I would say on that pass rush is you're chasing the inside shoulder instead of the outside shoulder, which as a defensive lineman, you want to aim for this shoulder outside, because when you go inside, now it probably wouldn't have made a difference. Alan Bowman still probably gets outside, but just one little point. No, it does a great job though.
I just thought it was a good play from Williams. Yeah, he was able to get through the offensive line and get there pretty quickly to mess up the play. And I just like that play because it just seemed like there was a lot of confusion at the beginning, but it turned out great for us through the pass rush on it. And I thought that was just a good play to take a look at. The next one that I want to look at is that interception from Hamilton that I was talking a little bit before, that pick 6. That's at I think it's the 7:52 mark, I think. Right, which is where we are right here.
Which looks like it, yep.
Yeah. Like I said, this play earlier, I was talking about this. He had no choice but to intercept this ball for a touchdown. He had absolutely no choice. Agwebu got pressure from the edge. It forced a throw from Bowman. Hamilton sat on it, and he read it perfectly. And this was what I said. This was just random perfection on the defensive side.
Yeah, so I will say, like, this is actually this is phenomenal instincts by Isaiah Hamilton. When you talk about like responsibility, Hamilton's sitting in and playing this zone, like this kind of flats zone, and 17 is sitting here. That's really where he should kind of be sitting, and he just kind of IDs what's going on and just makes a phenomenal kind of individual play. Right there. That's just a ball hawk.
I think when you draw it up, that's exactly what you want to see. Is 12 getting to the quarterback, forcing the throw, and then Hamilton waiting on it to get there. And that's why I said earlier, he had no choice but to intercept this ball and score a touchdown. The way that it was set up.
You look the way he breaks on that ball is pretty impressive. Like, so watch this back again. So right here, he's kind of sitting on this space. And the moment he sees that throw, like, look how much ground he's having to cover, honestly. Like, I mean, that's 5 yards from the time the ball is thrown that he closes that gap. And Ollie Gordon,
he hits it full stride too, man.
He got going real quick.
Yeah.
That's that acceleration. You talk about the difference between, and this is what obviously got Isaiah Hamilton out of the level of football that he was at. When you talk about differences at the collegiate level, and then as you want to see each difference climb, accordingly from conference to conference and on to the NFL, whatever. It's that acceleration. It's that ability. There are a lot of 6 foot or even plus corners out there, but only so many of them are going to have that frame that can also do that. Now, this is one play, obviously. I'm not fixing to get him in the draft this year, but you see what I'm saying? That's what people see in him that shows them that he has more to be mined, so to speak, at this level. So good for the long term. You know what I mean? Definitely good. And I think he's gotten better as the season's gone on. I mean, I hate to be this guy, but again, inconsistent. He's had some games and had some where he's looked worse. So, but you can see what they see in terms of his good is really good.
Yeah, well, and
this is what I was talking about before. Sorry, Gatlin. This is what I was talking about before. You said it right. His instincts right here were right on, right? This is exactly how you draw it up. This is exactly what you should see, and he read it perfectly, right? Where Hamilton has issues is whenever he has to pass protect for long periods of time in single coverage. He doesn't stall the receiver at the line very well. He just I don't know if he doesn't have the size for it, just the physicalness to do it. But I mentioned it before. As soon as the receiver gets on the same level with him and he's pivoting and turning around, the receiver's already gone. The receiver already has a step on him, and then all the receiver has to do is just lead, or rather, all the quarterback has to do is just lead the receiver just a little bit. Just don't throw it short, and he should be able to hit him. That's what happened a little bit later on a touchdown pass. But Hamilton, like we said, he's got the physical attributes, but it's just putting it all together, and being able to jam up a receiver at the line, I think will turn his game, to the next level. That's how I feel about it. I don't know if you feel the way.
No, I mean, I don't disagree. But so one of the things we were talking about before the podcast was, that this staff, there isn't much question, at least on the offense, right? Like, hey, Dana knows his X's and O's, right? And it's kind of everything else that is the problem. But one of the things we were talking about was, what is this staff's ability, not just to like identify talent, but to put them in the right positions, right? Because we've had this conversation a lot this year with different players, and Isaiah Hamilton to me kind of feels like another one where he certainly, and I haven't paid enough attention to really make this claim, but just kind of anecdotally, he seems like more of a zone cornerback, right? And there's different kinds of corners, right? Guys who are kind of island, right? Darrelle Revis is like a man cover corner, and Brandon Brown, or like some of those guys over time in the FLEC who are just lockdown man guys. They can flip their hips, play man coverage, jam you, turn when you get beat, recover. The things you're talking about that Hamilton doesn't do very well. But there's also guys like Richard Sherman, who don't play a lot of man coverage, but are phenomenal in zone coverage. Whenever they can see everything in front of them, they have really great closing speed onto the ball, and passes that you think are there, all of a sudden, boom, they close that distance and it's a pick or it's a deflection, right? And like that's the kind of things I think Isaiah Hamilton does phenomenally well, right? And that's kind of he plays very aggressive in that way too, in trying to close on the ball. And it doesn't feel like we always put him in the best positions to be successful, right? In terms of I
agree with that. Yeah.
And play a lot of man coverage. And now part of it is we don't have anyone better, right?
That's what I was about to say. If you had another good corner, maybe I'm just saying, but if they had another corner, maybe they would feel like they remember when they had Marcus and Pepe a few years back. Yeah. Remember how much they moved everybody around on the back end because they could and they could get away with it. So
certainly,
and that may be. I'm not saying that's the case now, but that could be one of the issues.
No, I know it's a very good point, Rob. Like Isaiah Hamilton probably is our best man cover corner,
right?
And defensively, it's not uncommon to say, hey, okay, the rest of us are going to play zone, but you're going to follow this guy, or hey, whoever's on the outside, if it's outside release, you're playing man. The rest of us are cover 2, or whatever, right? Things like that are pretty common, and so I think Isaiah Hamilton kind of draws that straw probably a lot more because he is so talented, and we're just not putting him in the positions where he could be most successful, and he's kind of sacrificing for the betterment of the team because whoever else we would put out there, maybe Jalen Emery, right, or somebody, may perform.
Unfortunately, I believe, yeah.
No,
I agree with that.
More of a run support kind of guy. He doesn't play a lot of man coverage, so just of the rest of our roster.
Before we move past the next play, I just want to make a quick point that popped in my brain. It also lends itself to the point of those that wonder a little bit more too long term what these staff see behind the scenes, because as you guys will remember, Latrell McCutcheon's sitting this season because of the transfer rule, and knowing that he's going to be back next year. I mean, he is a pretty. I mean, we'll see how he looks here. He didn't look perfect early on, but he fits and has in the little points that we've seen him in practice has looked the part. So you got to think as the staff sees forward, they have to play him in this spot this year, but maybe they're getting him ready to know. You know what I mean? But again, that's great. If the world's perfect and you get every perfect recruit that you want, I bet you could play a pretty good defense. But that's, again, falls back onto can this specific group of people put these guys in the right spot, make the most out of what they have, so to speak, and be successful with it.
Yeah. Agree with that. I agree with that. Okay, let's go to this next play I wanted to see. This was Jonah Wilson's touchdown that I wanted to take a look at, because this was
good
a great play. Okay, great for him, and it's just a little glimpse into the future, right, as far as what he can do. But it was again, nice to see him get this touchdown. Is that the 215 mark, I believe? Yeah, and again, a glimpse of what he is capable of, just can't consistently do, right? That's part of the problem. Okay. So that's at the 215 mark, Gatlin, if whenever you get there. Okay. But I love watching this play. I love just watching this play over and over again, because it was just drawn up so perfectly and executed so perfectly. Again, the E word, execution, right? Is, the receiver has to do his job, everybody has to do his job, and Donovan's got to put the ball in the right place, and he put it in the perfect spot.
Yeah. So I went actually to the replay here because I think it gives us a better look of what Jonah Wilson is doing. So I think it's a little bit more interesting.
Routes,
yeah. So right here, because Dana talked about this a little bit.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say, so Dana talked about this in the press conference about this play, where what they kind of see pre-snap is just kind of man coverage. And the moment is right here. So Jonah Wilson attacks vertically really well and kind of closes this distance. And when the DB... Yep. So Jonah Wilson puts this foot in the ground and kind of just gives like the slightest movement outside. And I mean, look, nine is facing his own sideline right now.
You're done for.
Right.
And that is opposite direction. Yeah. That's the cue to Donovan Smith that this is over, because again, this is a safety. So this man coverage, which means all of the space to his left is wide open. So you just throw it out here.
Yeah.
And there's no chance in heck this guy's going to recover, right? So great kind of scheming up a touchdown here, so to speak. But
good job spotting it by Donovan. Good time on the pass. Good timing and everything.
Yeah, but what I wanted to highlight is, because I've been pointing this out for a couple of weeks now, is like when Donovan makes a good throw, it feels like oftentimes like the wide receivers aren't winning man coverage. Like that's been a challenge at times this year. And this was just a great, kind of shout out to Jonah Wilson. We're like, hey, you've been asking kids to step up. He went and won a matchup and it was really great. So kudos to him.
I thought it was cool too, I almost cut you off, but now I'll add it now. Just when they showed the celebration there, I was trying to see who had mobbed him. I know a lot of people went towards him, and everybody's probably seen the reaction on the sidelines too. But Rashawn Sanford he's a freshman. Obviously, he's recovering from a knee injury.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool that he was one of the first ones. Obviously, he's a freshman like him, and I'm sure they know each other well. But yeah, thought that was kind of cool.
Man, I'm telling you,
Rob,
you
correct
guys.
me if I'm wrong, but was this? I'm sorry, I just wasn't sure if this was Wilson's first catch. Was this his first catch? I don't remember him getting another reception.
If it was his first reception. I'll have to look it up and keep talking, and maybe I'll.
It's
I know it wasn't his first game. We know he got in before, but for sure,
I think it was mostly special teams.
Right. So that may have been his first.
Yeah.
First catch, first touchdown, all in one play.
Yeah,
that's good.
To your point about Sanford, though, Rob, like I've been banging this drum forever. Like I'll be honest with you guys, as good as Parker Jenkins is, I think Rashawn Sanford might have the chance to be even better. And that's I know it's a bold statement.
Wow. People, it's just asked, and I know, and I literally went through the process of watching him get his ranking and whatnot, and
I'm telling you, if he wasn't 5'8", he would have been a 4.
It's literally, I'm telling you.
And there's something to point out on this too, that I think might be important for people when we talk about these rankings, right? Is and correct me if I'm wrong here, right, Rob? But a lot of what they're trying to do with at least specifically the 24/7 rankings is project ability to the NFL, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so candidly, a 5'8",
it's not fair, right?
Yeah, he's probably not has a high ceiling to get in the NFL. Now we've seen plenty of guys his size do it, but it's certainly more uncommon. Right? So a mid-5.
I keep talking.
Jacquizz Rogers, right?
Yeah, Jacquizz Rogers, and who's the guy? Darren Sproles, right? We've seen it, but it's obviously much less common. So to say that he's a mid to high Deuce Vaughn, sure, even a little more recent, right? But now, how many of those guys can we name that are 6 foot, right? Like everyone else in the league, right? So, so I don't think it's an indictment on him. I just my point is, if he was, 5'10" even, I think there'd be so much more hype around him than there is, and so next year having the ability to pair those two guys together in the backfield is going to be something to watch. I mean, the guy rushed for 2,000 yards 3 years in a row, 6A Texas high school football.
Yeah. You know what, Gatlin? Gatlin, you need to stop because you're trying to make me hopeful and excited for next year. Okay.
And
there's plenty to dread.
Oh wow.
The running back is not one of them.
Rob saying wait till Sanford, next year. Like
I just switched batteries out. We got a whole another 45 minutes if we need it. So no, but what I do want to point out, you talk about Rashawn Sanford. When I went up to that game, that was actually the game that I went up wherever that was at. They were playing in Temple was playing. Huh?
Oh, nothing. Keep going.
No. Temple was playing up there, and they were playing Rashawn Sanford's team. And I went mostly first and foremost got and seen MHP in person that year yet in terms of the actual game. And then also it was like, cherry on top for the drive to be able to see Rashawn Sanford. He was already committed and solid and all that.
Yeah.
Talking to MHP's dad, who's obviously one of the coaching staff people at Temple, talking to him, Chris Pilot, sorry, I almost left his name out there, but talking to him before the game a little bit. And we were specifically talking about him, and we agreed just in that if he were a couple inches taller, that he would just, his recruitment would be through the roof. And he knew the kid back from even when he was a freshman. He played on varsity since the get-go, and he told me that every time they knew they were playing this team, it was going to be a problem. And he's one of those players that just, you can't bring him down. He's not going to stop. And so it's interesting. I pointed that out just in the thread earlier before we started recording that in terms of recruiting, like you're not going to have a big back in this class because when he got injured, they counted him basically as starting over next year. So he's next year's back. Basically, that's why they decided not to take a back in this class, because you want a little bit of separation anyway. And he's coming back after a red shirt. So, and if need be, he can get a medical on the back end, of course, long term if you think that way. But that plays into a little bit more on how the recruiting is played out. I won't start that argument on here, but that's something I just pointed out on the board.
Yeah.
No, all right. Hey, Gatlin, just a few more plays. And I know we're about 45 minutes in. 12-14. This is the start of the drive where we have the Smith touchdown reception. Okay, on that trick play, and I just like the way that play was set up with the previous plays, as I mentioned before. It's a chess match, right? You're setting up the defense for something that you're trying to put them on their heels. So I thought this was a good run play at the 12-14 mark. Yeah, this was a short. I can't remember if this was third and short, and this is Smith. Third and short. Here's a Smith run. Okay, up the middle. He's patient. He waits and sees what the defense is going to give him, and then he finds his lane and he's able to convert. But I thought this was a good run right here. I wanted to.
Yeah,
I wanted to see it was just part of the series.
Yeah. So some things to point out here too on the offensive line kind of goes on. So again. Pancake.
We're spread out.
I thought looked really solid, like off the snap.
And I was really impressed.
Yeah, he's the only one who kind of gets pushed here, and he kind of falls off his guy. But I wanted to point out, right? So everyone else is in the backfield. Okay, already. We got one guy on the ground. Everyone else is in the backfield. Pancake is the only one holding strong at the line of scrimmage. And now this guy does kind of beat Pancake outside. The play is supposed to flow right through here off of Tank Jenkins, but obviously it doesn't. But what they teach you to do when you kind of get beat across face is wash them down, okay? And it's kind of what springs this play on the cutback, right? Is so the whole, kind of falls apart. But because Pancake washes this guy down instead of sit where he's at, him and then Tank kind of does the same thing, washes their guys down, and it creates that kind of cutback lane for Donovan, which is solid.
Yeah, I thought it was a good conversion. I thought it was just good execution on the offensive side. Really, the next play, 11:49. This was just I think just the next pass play. Again, we're setting up for the trick play. This was just good execution, I thought, also on this pass play. I think Laughlin's going to motion out to the left, I think, here. Yeah. They called this at the line. They stopped, they looked at the sideline, and they moved Laughlin over for whatever they saw on the defense. And then they clear it out, and I think you have Barnes crossing over from the right. And it's just a good conversion. It was just I don't know if the play was designed for Smith to roll to the left like that, but he did. And then he squared his shoulders up and threw an accurate pass. And I thought this was
saw pressure coming down the middle and just extended the play. I mean, certainly didn't give up the way it was drawn up, but Carnes kind of does a nice heads up job of just kind of seeing the Donovan scrambling, and I mean that's scramble drill, right? Just run to the sideline, and then go off. So
it goes back to tell you a little bit more too about Dalton Carnes is getting snaps already at this level. I think we talked about that before too. Just players that'll do that they don't give up on the play. They continue to be a good target and they move. You know what I mean? It's sometimes you think that's silly, but those are little things that people got to learn to do better.
Yeah,
this is the next play.
Presence and awareness.
Wait. Pause it. Sorry.
Yep, it is.
This is Parker Jenkins' run right here. And the way that he fakes out the defensive, this is why he's a different kind of running back. If we play this out, okay. But Parker, I think it is about a 15-yard gain right here for him, but he only had one guy to beat because he got really good blocking up front.
Yeah.
Break the hole.
So,
and he sidesteps the defensive player who was coming right up and had a clean shot. And they're going to show it on the replay, the move that he makes. If we go a little bit further, they'll show the replay. Yeah. But this is why Parker Jenkins is a different kind of back right here. It's just the way he effortlessly sidesteps the defensive player.
Yeah, it's a great move.
O'Loughlin came in and
Right
sealed his guy off.
Mm-hmm. This was great blocking and just a great one-cut move from Jenkins on that defensive player. And 15 yards later, he's finally getting touched again. So it was just a great setup, I thought. I think this is okay. See, Man Jack's up there. This is the trick play right here.
Yeah. So real quick, just one thing to point out to your point about kind of how all this is set up. If you watch, they've been in the same formation this entire time. Okay.
Right. I noticed that also. Yeah.
Yeah. So what that does when you're able to run multiple plays out of the same formation is it makes it harder for the defense to understand what's going on, right? And kind of like a magic trick, right? What they do here is they create some misdirection. So they motion Man Jack into the backfield, and again, O'Loughlin's still in this up back. We got a running back, offset to the right. Everyone thinks that everyone is watching where the item is, right? The magic trick. You watch the magician's hands, and that in their minds is the misdirection. So that's why everyone immediately comes down and runs support.
And everybody blocks down that way.
To go the right. Yeah, it was set up to go this way, right? And that's where the misdirection comes in.
Yeah, but Man Jack being in the backfield specifically, that's this is the trick play or whatever, is that they're handing the ball off to Man Jack, and if anything, maybe it's a pass out to it's a double pass out to the wide receiver, right? And so everyone immediately takes a step down and runs support, because it's Man Jack, right?
Everybody.
And so there's kind of
and you can see Donovan's just kind of lingering up there at the top.
Donovan does a great job selling that.
But look at where the defense is. Look at where the defense is. Everybody is right there. And if you look at the top, there's Paul. I think that's Johnson, number 50, right? And then look at that.
Johnson,
look at all he has to do is beat 4. Perfect play. It was drawn up perfectly, and it was set up perfectly, I think, from the plays before to your what you noticed there, Gatlin, it was the same formations, but they ran different plays out of all 4 of those formations in consecutive plays. That's why I thought that was just brilliant play calling and just perfect execution on the offensive side. I wish we could see that an entire game, but that's why I wanted to show these plays, because I just thought this is what we want to see. And
you have to go to Athens for that.
Exactly. There was one more play I wanted to show at 9:33, and this is why Caesar is an NFL player. As we've already mentioned enough times, at 9:33, you're going to see this pressure. That was also that he was also held. Also, he was also tackled on the play, but they never threw the flag. 9:33 mark. So we got Caesar down here next to Hamilton, right? I think this is man coverage. And he just bull rushes that tackle, and basically gets tackled himself. But they never threw the flag, and then that allowed Hamilton to recover for the receiver there. Great play for Caesar. I mean, this play was all Caesar.
Yeah, no, spectacular. Running back once.
That's why Caesar's an NFL player right there. Is plays like that.
Man.
I mean, the tackle had no leverage whatsoever on him.
Yeah, and the work he does too also frees up Malik there as well, coming through to get in the quarterback's face, force it back through.
Yeah, that was the last play that I had marked, really.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you hit on some solid things. I'll roll through to a couple more. I'll kind of bounce around here a little bit.
Yeah.
Just some things I wanted to kind of highlight. So I touched on it, and Rob, I think you talked about this on the board a little bit, but this was the Demetrius Hunter holding call.
I did not like that call in the moment, but
yeah, I didn't either. And I just wanted to show back. They do a nice little replay.
For lack of a better term, he pancaked the guy. I mean, it couldn't be more appropriate.
He clotheslined him.
So it's the thing that is the most impressive to me about him is how powerful he is with his hands.
Even if he's beat, he's not beat, right?
Yeah. So, here we go. So we watched this And there's actually another component to this, which is pretty impressive, which was his ability to ID the splits in the first place, right? So what really should have happened is, he should have tried to take over and work over to 97.
Right, because you see Tank Gletton go to work over as well, right?
Correct. But this linebacker, instead of continuing to flow, he shoots inside, and so what should have happened at this point is Tank should have just stayed, and Demetrius would have worked on this guy. And I'm sorry, you can make an argument, I guess, with this. All the ref saw is that his hand is on the backside of his jersey.
Yeah, but
so they kind of assumed that he's holding him. He punches this guy's shoulder with his left hand, and it just launches him into the air. I think it's just a phenomenal run. But more importantly,
way to go, Pancake, because it looks so inhumane or unhuman like. You got a call from holding. Thanks a lot.
And something also to highlight here is like
that was an assault.
The trust that this staff has in him. I mean, you watch like how often did they run it right behind Pancake? Like this play is supposed to go right in the A gap, right there next to him. And typically, like the way the guys who didn't know on the broadcast what was going to happen were talking about it was, this young center who's never been in here. It's like, no, the staff threw him right into the fire, and they trusted him to be able to hold his own in there. And so the future inside looks really bright between him and Tyler Johnson coming back. We even have, if we can't find anything better, we've got Tank Jenkins, and I pick on Tank a little bit, but I don't think he's bad. Like I think he's serviceable.
Right.
So the interior of the line, the future is not as bleak as certainly trying to replace two tackles at the same time.
Oh, man.
Gatlin, what about Barnes? Like what have you seen from Barnes?
Didn't I get in trouble for being negative earlier? Thanks a lot, Gatlin. Way to ruin the day. No pressure. Get two tackles.
Are you talking about who?
Barnes. The offensive lineman, Barnes. He's number 7.
About
Baines.
Baines, unfortunately, is a senior. He's out of eligibility.
Yeah, he's a senior.
Right. He's out of eligibility.
He started at U of H and then transferred over to, I think it was Akron or Ohio.
Yeah, Akron.
Yeah, one of the two. And then came back just for his last season. His dad, I think Joey, his name was a U of H player back in the day.
Yeah, he played with Andre in the Heisman years.
Yeah, so just a ton of school pride. I think he just wanted to, kind of he'd been able to play, which is why he transferred out in the first place. And we needed some depth, and so I think it just made sense for him to come back. I've liked what I saw a little bit this year. I wish he had another year. I think he could do some work inside.
That's what I thought. When he was on the field, he seemed productive. But I forgot that he was a senior.
Just a guy who's played a lot of ball. Kind of knows.
There you go. He's got a lot of experience.
Yeah. The one to look for inside, maybe to take a step forward, though, is Peyton Dunn. Just huge frame. I think if he can lose, 20 pounds this offseason, maybe get a little bit more in shape. He's got some power. He moves really well for his size in some of those pulling situations and whatnot. It's kind of what he does best is some of those pulls. But I think he's still just got a little bit of ways to go, unfortunately. But who knows? Maybe he takes a big step forward this offseason and challenges at one of those guard spots. The other thing I did want to highlight, though, because so again, Pancake looked really solid, but I did want to point out one of the areas where I think he could continue to take a step forward. 41-55. Okay. So
he was just a redshirt freshman, right?
For sure. Yeah. No, for sure. But I'm just, we talking about like, hey, why wasn't he playing this whole year, right? Here's some of the things that, because he is young, he just still needs to get a little bit better at. We saw this in limited time against Kansas State. It was something I thought he did well, but in just trying to adjust to the speed of the game, he overruns this linebacker. So he does a great job again with his, inside hand, just kind of creating time for Tyler Johnson to go and take over the block. It's not his fault, actually. Tyler needs to do a better job of taking over this block. He's not supposed to give much more help than he did. So he's supposed to work up to the linebacker here. Tyler does an okay job of kind of covering him up, but he's a little high and off his base working up. And so the linebacker just kind of comes underneath and he's not able to recover, right? And just kind of gets caught flat-footed there. So that's one of those things that, as he adjusts to the speed of the game next year and just in general, I think he'll be better. But certainly something I noticed several times this game was, in kind of working up to that second level, there were times where you see his base actually isn't that bad. He could be lower, but just needs to be more patient. But just something to point out, right? One of the
I get you. I'm wondering too. I'd like to know what his job was there, and did he have was that like you said? Did he come in and overrun it?
Oh, for sure.
He realized last second. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
his eyeball's looking up even past to the next level.
No, so that's his responsibility.
No, it is. You're right.
But now in this situation, if the linebacker shoots inside or whatever, or runs into a wrong gap, and you're looking for work, you would want to climb to the next level. But this was his guy. That's just a basic inside zone run. So it's kind of you take over the guard and backside, or the backside guard in the center are responsible for the nose up to the linebacker.
Right. And the backer could have done a good job too there. Either he knew he had been overrun.
Oh no, he made a great point. For sure.
Yeah, exactly.
No, certainly. Again, but that's just I point out same way like with Parker Jenkins and his pass blocking, right? Where it's like it's one of those things that will get better.
Things that will get
certainly.
Better.
For sure. But when you ask, as fans, when we say, oh man, I mean, he's so talented, why is he not playing more? About Parker or some of these young guys, it's like, well, these are some of the things that, now whether or not we should just kind of take them as growing pains and let the young guys play, different story. But that is probably what the coaching staff sees. That is part of the reason he's not getting,
practice and whatnot when they go back and watch all the practice film and all that stuff that we don't have the ability to see.
No, but that was kind of all I wanted to point out was just some good and bad of Pancake. We don't need to take too much more. I did have one more play. Again, I think Kevin probably had a little bit more of an optimistic view than I did of the first half in terms of certainly there were things that they did well. But when you really look at it, so he scored 24 points in the first half. 9 of those came from the defense. So, when you look at like how productive was the offense, really, the offense wasn't too terribly productive, right? And 2 of those touchdowns came from a trick play and just like a big shot play, So how were we play in, play out kind of net success rate? It wasn't super great. And here's, just kind of we talked about like, where is Donnie laid and poor reads. So this is 3rd and 7. And right here, his primary read is this. You've got a go and an out route, which is a common air raid principle against man coverage. And the idea is to bring this, corner safety up, maybe get the safety not to crash down. And right here, we've got man coverage. He's about to break for his out route. And the DB has his head turned, okay? That's important because this is a hard throw from here all the way to the opposite, from the backside hash all the way to the top of the numbers. It's a long throw, but it's a throw that you can make against man coverage because the DB has his head turned. And there's a ton of space if you throw that ball right now to lead your receiver before the defensive back ever gets his head around. And you'll see right when he should have thrown it and this starts to come open is when he tucks it and takes off. And those are just the little things where, again, like just say the
half a second longer.
Yeah. And there's just nothing you can do to coach that.
Yeah.
You either see it or you don't.
You either get them in that position enough where you teach them that what they're doing is wrong so they change it, or they, it's either it becomes an instinctual thing almost at that point, right?
It is. It is. At this point, I mean, he's got 1 year of eligibility left, and this is the end of the season. Like,
Right.
if you're not seeing it by now, I don't think you ever
There you
are.
go. And I think that's the fair complaint too. And people talk about, the reasons he left Tech and this and that. I think it's a fair criticism that how much higher is the ceiling? Is there another level type thing? Can he get to another level? And like you said, that we're kind of running out of time a little bit.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I mean, look, for Dana, coming into this year, like I kind of understand the move in terms of, hey, Donovan is good enough to win you 6 games. He's also bad enough to lose you 4, where like just by his play,
That's a good point.
there's a lot of inconsistency, right? And so the up and down, Dana kind of needed to win now. You're probably not able to afford a guy in the portal that's really going to elevate you. You haven't been able to develop a guy. So Donovan kind of makes the most sense. But for Donovan, like, his 2 options probably should have been, hey, if you want to go really be a star, like, needed to go be at a group of 5 level or go be the greatest backup quarterback in college football. Like, I mean, Alabama, Texas, some of those guys would have paid through the nose to have him as a second option.
That's
right.
Yeah, probably.
But certainly, I mean, as a kid who wants to play Power 5 football as a starting quarterback, I mean, Houston was a good fit for that. But in terms of where does I think he add the most value? I think it's probably as a really phenomenal backup who can win you games when your starter gets hurt. I don't know that he has the ceiling between the years because physically he can make the throws.
Right.
Which again, I've said this several times now, but like that's the difference between Clayton Tune and Donovan Smith is Clayton Tune, the issue was never really between the years. He certainly would make some boneheaded throws and whatnot, but more so it was like there were times where, man, he would just throw a duck and like he just there were throws that he couldn't make, right? And we had the game plan around that, or like he would run too much and try to use his legs too much because he couldn't throw on the run as well. Like some of those things. I think there were physical limitations for Clayton Tune, especially early on. He certainly got better over time, but that's my point. Is it's easier to grow physically in how you throw a football or things like that than it is to grow between the years in terms of the reads and decisions that you're making.
True. Well, I know we're getting along in the tooth here on this one, but to be fair, just before we go, we didn't talk a lot of hoops, but obviously we're recording this Sunday afternoon. The championship game of the Charleston Classic is this evening, 7:30. Houston playing Dayton. They're coming off a 10-point win over Utah. Very impressive game, by the way. That was good. It's been the same issues. I don't want to delve too far with this time frame, but we'll talk about it maybe. Free throws. Next time we get together, beyond the obvious free throws, we'll see what we can delve into as well. So I mean, football season's kind of coming to a close, so there's a lot of time for us to really dig deep.
What I liked about the last game was they were contested. It wasn't a 30-point blowout.
Right.
And I think that's important to see what how this
long
team
term,
reacts
it may be
kind
better
of
that they're pressed a little bit. Right. You're going to need to face some tests.
Every game's not going to be 30. Yeah. We're not going to blow out every team, right? We have to learn to win the close games. But how you win those close games is also hitting your free throws, and that's why I said before, we're going to have a lot of close games in the Big 12, probably. Potentially those games are going to be decided at the free throw line. And if we can't fix that or get the ball to the guys' hands who can hit those free throws on a consistent basis, then we're gonna have some trouble, a little bit of trouble. I still think we're gonna do well, but if other teams know that free throws are our Achilles heel, then hack a Shaq comes into play, right? Let's just start balancing guys for the end of the games, and they're gonna miss, because they're not gonna hit them under pressure. They can't hit them whenever they don't have pressure. They're certainly going to miss them whenever they are under pressure. So for me, it will continue to be a problem until it is fixed. The last game, I think we hit in the 60s. I think from the free throw line. I think we were in the 60s.
It's gone down the last few games, pretty gradual.
It's a concern.
So
for me, it is definitely a concern. I don't know if y'all.
I'm
guys
sure
feel the same way.
Coach Sampson is also doing a very good job of expressing his displeasure with how it's going too. So We'll give that time to work. I'm assuming that he will be able to figure that out at some point. But yeah, it's something to keep an eye on, and something we'll delve into a little bit more next episode. But yeah, so that's kind of where it stands. After tonight's game, they'll have a week off through Thanksgiving, and they play Friday night after that, the day after Thanksgiving, back home for Cheetah Center. They're hosting Montana, another former. It was Montana Tech, right? That Samson was at, not Montana. So almost made a fool of myself there. Anyway, let's wrap it up for this one. Episode 16 is in the books. Next week we will have some stuff with Central Florida ahead of that final game of the season. Stay close to the site. We'll see how things play out in the next week to 10 days. We'll see. I don't know. I'm a guy that don't like to say that very much, but here and today at this moment, it's up in the air. So we'll see.
I've never been more convinced, Rob. How close we are to playing quality football.
Yeah, I agree with that, Gatlin. I agree with that. One thing I want to bring up before, I know that we're gonna do a pregame for UCF, but here's one thing that I wanted to ask, and I wanted to ask this on the board. I don't know if it's been asked or brought up, but for this last game, do you expect Paul and Caesar to be playing on the field Saturday?
This is what I brought up. It just kind of hinted at in my thoughts from the morning after. I just said
I didn't read it.
I wouldn't be shocked to see some. There's literally nothing left. No offense, guys. There's not left anything.
Nothing to play for.
Yeah. So, we'll see. I put that I would not be shocked at all to see some player personnel changes this week, based on basically what you're hinting at there. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, that's something to keep your eye on this week. I agree with you.
I will say I think in a different season, perhaps, but I would be shocked personally, honestly, if Dana did that, given how short his leash is, whether or not he stays or goes, to kind of throw in the towel on this one when you're already below expectations.
That's a fair look at it too.
I think to your point, Rob, I think you also said this is, for some, there is a lot still to play for.
Right.
Again, I think still quite important that that this team doesn't come out and just lay a goose egg.
True.
So
it's not going to help either way heading into the offseason.
Yeah, definitely.
Good point.
Right.
All right. Well, I believe that will do it for episode 16. As always, like, subscribe, tell your friends, mail it to your grandma. I don't care what you do. Just make sure you spread the word. And, we'll see y'all guys for 17. We'll touch more on hoops then, and we'll preview the Central Florida game to end the season.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.